Hey, this is Marielle Buckley, and you're listening to The Northern Report with Sean Burns.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. Welcome to The Northern Report. I'm your host, Sean Burns, and I'm coming right at you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Here on The Northern Report, I aim to shine a light on emerging and existing Canadian talent, as well as some of the legends we're still lucky to have with us. My guest on today's show is Marielle Buckley. On the back of her sophomore album, Driving in the Dark, Marielle was the winner of Roots Artist of the Year at the 2019 Western Canadian Music Awards. Topping that successful year, Marielle finished first place at Project Wild. It was real nice to get the chance to catch up and dig a little deeper into the backstory, the journey into regional stardom, and the plans, albeit ever-changing, for the future. And although this chat didn't run quite as long as some of the other ones, we managed to cover some respectable ground over the next 30 minutes or so. So thanks for tuning in, and here's my chat with Marielle Buckley.
Hi, buddy.
Hey, pal, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
Living in the Toba?
Living in Winnipeg, in the heart of the continent. But you are now in the city of champions in Edmonton, hey?
Yeah, I like it here a lot.
It's like a bigger Winnipeg. I always felt there was similarities.
I feel that way too. It's a lot like all the capital cities. I think they have a vibe about them that's just like very insular and like cool and creative.
It's like a bit of a more hard-nosed vibe than Calgary, I think. I like Calgary a lot too, but I always sort of like Edmonton's got a little bit more blue-collar sort of action.
Oh yeah, for sure. I completely agree.
So you grew up in Calgary. Like, do you remember what kind of music you were hearing around your house when you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, when I was little, it was like I listened to a lot of Madonna, and that we had like kind of all the '90s pop staples, and like a lot of the world music my parents were super into. But my dad also had a pretty sizable like John Prine, Commander Cody, and the Lost Boys. Yeah, he had that what's that record they have with like Smoke That Cigarette on it and stuff.
I might have it hanging around here.
Oh, so good. So we had that in the car. Lots of like 70s folk music, Chris Christopherson and shit. And, the like, I'm a white dad staples.
But it makes sense, like, that you and your brother are sort of in this sort of songwriter vein, like, and the country-ish kind of thing that you grew up around.
Yeah, for sure. It was around.
So other than your brother, Tim T. Buckley, who's like a really well-respected and well-liked artist, was there any other musicians or family members like that?
Yeah, well, one of our uncles, Uncle Chris, my dad's got 7 brothers and sisters, and one of them, and they all still play stringed instruments of some variety. Most of them are like cello or viola.
Wow.
But Uncle Chris plays viola in the St. John, New Brunswick string quartet still. And they go on tours and they do all kinds of stuff with the CBC. And like, they just did this fucking awesome recreation of a Stan Rogers tune, like an instrumental with like all these crazy, awesome, shots of Nova Scotia. And it's a big, so it's kind of neat to have him around still. That's
really cool. So you liked all that stuff growing up? Like when did you start singing? Do you remember when you started singing?
Yeah, I was like young, but I didn't do it in front of people until I was in my 20s. But I was probably like 16 or 15 when I bought a guitar and started banging away on it.
Your brother teaching you stuff, or are you kind of just hammering out on your own?
A little bit, but I was pretty, we were so far apart in age that he moved out when I was like, I was only 11 or 12 when he was out of the house.
Oh.
Because he's 7 years older than I am. So once he was gone, it was kind of like I knew he played and I thought it was cool, and that's why I started to do it, but he wasn't really around for me to learn from.
I think the first time I met you was maybe late 2011 or 12 at Wino's, like a now long since defunct venue, and it was like really clear to me that you were young and very hungry to soak everything up, and you were like putting the time in, but you definitely seemed like a little nervous. Green. Yeah, like green, but like not in a way, like a very humble about it. Like, here, I want to hear these bands and learn this shit and like see how people do it, and kind of like apprehensive to say, well, I do this too. And when did you start playing shows?
Yeah, I think it would have been right around that time. I mean, 2011 or 2012 for sure. And it was just open mics and stuff like the Ship and whatever, and just kind of cutting my teeth until the right chance came along. And, you know, I basically just took whatever I could get.
Yeah. First time I saw you was one of those 6-hour Stampede shifts at the Palomino.
Oh, yeah. I remember that because Lisa was there too. And I saw you do one of those way back with Peter Built.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had Spider and I think maybe Kent.
Oh, yeah. Kent McAllister was
early in your, you know.
Good times though.
That's like it's the progression's like natural, but it seemed really quick. Like, and from the outside looking in, there was young people like you and Carter in Calgary that were sort of making a splash. Do you look back on those years fondly? Like you don't really realize you're in it when you're in it, I guess.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's kind of, yeah, like that little 5-hour Palomino gig. I did it all the time to pay rent, and I loved it. Like it, you know, looking back now, it's like how low pressure it was and how fun it was just to get up there and like kind of get paid to practice and, you know, try out new songs and whatever. Like, yeah, I certainly miss those days.
And then you made Motorhome.
Yeah.
When did you record and release that?
2014.
Oh, it was 2014.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, holy shit. Yeah. Cause I remember getting a copy of that maybe at one of those Palomino shows.
Oh, probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you still play any of those songs live? Like, what's your relationship like now with that first record?
I still play a couple of them. Yeah, I still play Trouble Is, and I think I still play Bring Back My Heart sometimes. You know, I still love that record as much as it's not up on the streaming stuff right now, just because I'm actually getting it just remastered. But you know, it's a great little record, and it was so telling of what I was doing at the time. And you know, I was really into that traditional shit, and I think we did a fine job, and it was a lot of fun to record. So
that's the first record, or is there an EP in there somewhere that I'm missing?
There was an EP too, a self-titled one in 2012 that, you know, I didn't really do anything with, but and I still play some of those songs, or one of those songs anyway, still.
And that one's not up online either, is it?
No, it's a song called Saskatoon that I'm, you know, debating kind of re-recording now that I'm a bit more comfortable.
And Derek was the producer and recorded Motorhome.
Yeah, you bet. He was the dude.
What's that like? And talk about him a little bit, because he seems like an interesting guy. Like, I don't know him that well, kind of guy I bump into on the road, but seems like he's a really good musician and a really good guy.
Oh yeah, Pulley's, he's like, he has a crazy ear and is just such a great, you know, singer and understander and lover of music. And he was like the first person that kind of said, you should record a song. And I was not really thinking I would do that, to be honest. I was just sort of like, well, I'll play shows and it'll be a thing that I do on the side maybe. Cause I was a chef before that. I was in school and I got my degree. And so I didn't think that was going to be a thing, but Derek was the first one who kind of really pumped me to do some of that. So he's great. He's one of the best.
So you start to get some local attention and some interest with Motorhome. Like, was Motorhome the turning point, or was it like the couple of years that you spent playing a lot of shows around, you think?
Probably the shows were a huge part of like why I even got people to come to the album release and, you know, buy the record. So the record itself was like a good sort of climax to that. But yeah, definitely just playing around town was what really got me sort of on a bit of a roll, I think. And
you're staying local to Alberta for the most part still up until then?
Oh yeah, no, I don't think I'd done anything.
It all sort of leads up to Driving in the Dark.
Yeah, that's right.
And you made that with Leroy Stagger?
I did, yeah. I made it down in Lethbridge at the studio he built there.
Talk about like recording that and what that was like and who played on that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I obviously took 4 years before I made it. So I had a good little batch of songs, and went down to Lethbridge. Leroy built this amazing like cathedral style studio, and we had Brady Valgertson played the drums, who's Corblund's drummer. We had Great. Had Tyson Myko, who lives in Vulcan, play bass. He's also awesome. Michael Ayotte from Fort McLeod played keys. Russell Broom played guitars, which was fucking crazy. He's so good and he's got such a good ear for like hooks, which I really dig. Who else was on that? I'm trying to think. I don't think I'm leaving anybody out.
Leroy was like acting full on as producer with you, or were you involved with that as well?
Most of the tunes that I'll put on a record, like I've arranged pretty much, but as far as what the session band is doing and the vibe built around it, that's all producer. So Leroy was definitely driving that ship.
Definitely has like a real sort of Canadian thing. Like I think, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I hear like Tragically Hip influences and Blue Rodeo and stuff like that. Like, is that music that you really like and have enjoyed over the years?
Yeah, doggy. Even though, Blue Rodeo gets a bit soft for me sometimes, like that 5 Days in May record, I love it still. So good.
Yeah. But there's like it's like, it's edgier without being, overly aggressive, your sound compared to someone like Blue Rodeo's. That's where I get the hip thing from, maybe.
Yeah, I hope so anyway. That's nice of you.
It's not soft, bud. It's not.
Oh, thanks, bud.
But you can dig in without like being, offensive, I think.
Well, that's the idea. Although I am, occasionally offensive still.
Not in music though, just like on the internet.
Oh, fuck. Get me out of there.
It's like a necessary evil. I remember seeing you at the Ironwood. We were there on a release tour for one of my records. This would have been early 2018, like a couple of months before your record came out. And I remember you seemed like really sort of excited about what you had. Like, did you think that you felt good about it? Like, did you think people were going to receive it as well as they did?
I don't know if I was like excited about what people would think as much as I just like that record for me was a lot more true to how I think I sort of wanted to sound. So I was more excited that I was getting to like share probably a more authentic version of the kind of songwriter I was hoping to be, I think. If that makes
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you said, you took 4 years in between and you made sure that it was like everything felt right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
probably a lot different of a person in those 4 years.
Oh, buddy.
So, album comes out, people really dig it. Some doors are opened up, no doubt. Talk a little bit about that, like what followed the release and any subsequent touring, I guess, would have sort of entered the picture for you after that.
Well, I had obviously kind of right when I was getting ready to put it out, I kind of was working with, my first sort of team member, and that obviously really helped me to plan and maximize the release of that record and make it as good as it was. And, essentially we put it out, did a few release shows in Alberta that were all in bigger venues than I had sold out previously. And then we just booked a tour, and I knew that I had sort of no touring market really. So I had to be creative. So we actually did a brewery tour that summer, the summer of 2018. I just, we emailed like every brewery we could find in Western Canada and said, hey, how do you feel about me coming and setting up and playing, a couple sets by myself or with a band if you want. And, here's what I'd be looking for and here's what I could provide you. And yeah, so it was a really great way to like quickly build an audience, quickly build a touring sort of roster to have stuff to show for future whatever. And yeah, it just kind of kept going from there. I did a whole bunch of showcasing with it too. I did that Folk Alliance thing and Out West thing, and basically I spent a lot of money and time playing those songs for people over about a year before it came out and then up until now.
Hey there again, folks. As we approach the halfway point of today's episode, I'd like to thank you once again for tuning in. You're listening to the Northern Report podcast. I'm your host, Sean Burns, and our guest today is Marielle Buckley. I'll remind you to follow along with the Northern Report podcast and playlist on Spotify. Subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts. Listen on YouTube, our Anchor.fm page, or wherever you find your podcasts. Over the last number of years, Marielle has established herself as a darling of the vibrant Alberta Roots music scene. And although it is a quality community with many great venues throughout Wild Rose Country, it's a big wide world out there. And no matter where one finds themselves, a good song is always a welcome companion. So with a basket full of well-written material, Marielle began to branch outside the confines of the sovereign nation of Alberta and found fans all across North America. We'll dig into that next. Just before the COVID thing sort of happens, like you really started to establish yourself as someone who's prepared to put on the miles and hard time going on the road. And I get the impression you're ready for that now, but has the break sort of given you pause to reflect about new ways you might want to approach that in the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you know, I wanted to tour so much because I saw guys like you doing it, like just nonstop. And I was like, that looks so fun. And I kind of did that for about a year and then was scheduled to do a lot more of that. But the break was great because I found that I had like a vocal polyp, which needed my attention pretty fucking urgently. And, you know, it kind of gave me pause to look at some of the lifestyle choices I was making when I was touring. You know, and I think every artist kind of goes through this at a certain point when it's just like, you know, drinking 6 beer after every show, like, doesn't actually work for me anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, now I think, you know, I'm certainly ready to hit it hard as before or harder, but just taking some steps to be a little bit healthier in how I want to do that.
If you don't want to talk about this, I understand because you probably get asked about it all the time, but you won $100,000.
I did.
So that must have been a whole crazy experience, like going to this thing and sort of competing. I mean, that kind of seems a weird way to put it. You're just kind of like going there. Actually, just you tell me about what it was all about.
It is weird. Like, it's, you know, it's technically listed as like an artist development program. So, you know, anybody who's kind of under the country folk roots umbrella can apply. So, you know, we thought, given my trajectory and where I was at, that it would be a good thing to go for. And initially it's kind of set up as like a learning opportunity. You go away to like a boot camp and you have a bunch of people that come in and talk about, you know, fucking Spotify and whatever the fuck else. And you play some songs for like a performance coach. And it's all stuff that I had never done and made me very uncomfortable, which I thought was a good thing. 'Cause, you know, it's good to be uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah.
And grow. And then, yeah, there's a competition element of it at the end where you play a show for a panel of judges and then they rank you and then you submit. So that's 50% of your overall score. And then you submit, you know, a grant basically that's like, here's what I would do with $100,000, you know? And, you know, I think the benefit for me going into that thing is just that I had a few shows under my belt and I kind of had put out a record by myself and understood how that kind of looks on a marketing plan instead of like everybody else was kind of doing the pop country thing in that contest.
Right. Yeah. You were standing out stylistically for sure.
Well, and also like those, you know, a lot of those folks do the singles game. Like it's like one song and they try super hard to get it on commercial radio or onto an Apple Music playlist, and then that's it for 6 months until another song. So I just think that, you know, I mean, obviously I was stoked to win and I didn't expect it at all, but it was, it was really fun.
That's pretty exciting, but it must also be like a little overwhelming. You're like, holy shit. But I mean, you've had to detail how you're, you know, intending to spend it, but it still must feel a little bit, a little surreal.
Yeah, well, certainly there's an element of that. And it's also like, you know, I'm pretty hard on myself and I don't like the idea of people looking at me and thinking like, oh, she's got $100,000. Like, fuck, she won't work hard now, or the record won't be good, or, you know, so I almost feel like it was amazing and such a big help. And I'm so grateful, but I'm also like, fuck, I really got to do a good job and show people that I deserved it.
You released a couple singles since then, right? There was one that you did with the Brothers Landreth. Am I right?
Oh yeah. We did that. We did 2 tunes last December.
And then you do No Surprise, which was the one that I had sort of mentioned in the Honky-Tonk Times article. I recorded that with Skinny. What made you get Skinny involved, and what was the whole thought process behind getting that one done?
That he put out that he did with Evan on the tape machine was so good. And I mean, he's a great songwriter. That Chicken Catcher stuff I love. And obviously I've seen him play with, all kinds of people and know he's a great musician. But when I heard that record, I don't think I realized kind of the depth of his, of his ears and his understanding of different kinds of music. And I just was really excited and wanted to exploit him, basically.
You want to get a song with that sound.
Exactly. Yeah.
Didn't want to do a whole record like that?
Well, that's actually still something I want to do. This full length record has been something else that I've had, kind of envisioned for a while, but Skinny and I are still I'm going to do a super, super hard country EP, hopefully in the next year or so, in the same, like on to tape and all that.
Yeah, he's great. He's really great. So, and he's going to be playing on your next full length record. Am I right?
Totally. Yeah. And actually doing that single with him was kind of the door to that. Cause I was just, I knew I wanted steel on this record cause there's none on the last one. And I thought, he would be such a great, because most of the band is not in country, on purpose. I kind of was like sort of moving a bit away from that, but I was like, it would be just so great to have someone rooted in that understanding of country music to still bring sort of a home base element to it.
You've had to push this recording back, I guess, a couple of times. Hey.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, 2 times now.
And so when are you supposed to go in and start recording it now?
Well, it's supposed to be April 18th, but we got new restrictions imposed today, but I think we're still supposed to go ahead though.
Jeez, eh?
Yeah,
is it frustrating because you're mentally getting yourself prepared to get into this zone and then you're just like, you can't.
Yeah, it's been tough for sure, but I'm trying to keep, grounded about it. And like, everybody's just so done with it right now. And
yeah,
you just got to keep your head down and know that whatever kind of happens, that eventually it won't be like this, and that will be good.
Similar personnel musically. I mean, I know Skinny's new, same band.
No, drummer is a guy from Montreal named Liam O'Neill. He's in a band called Soons. And then the bass player is Tyson. So yeah, he's the same. I've got Hill Horse playing keys and synths. So he does all the deep dark wood stuff.
Yeah. He's a monster.
He's awesome and such a great guy. And then James Robertson is a guitar player from Toronto. He was in that New Country Rehab band for a while.
He was with Lindy Ortega too, right?
Yep, he tours with Lindy and some other, like he lives part-time in Nashville, so he's a cool dude and kind of very vibey. Yeah. I think that's it. Yep, bass drum. Yep, that's it. And then the producer is also a guy from Montreal. So that's going to be very cool.
How'd you hook up with him? What's the story there?
It was like kind of classic tale. I just listened to a record that I really, really dug, and then he was, the producer and played a bunch of the stuff on it. And he's kind of been around forever. Like he did the Bar Brothers Queen of the Breaker record, which is the one that I'm talking about. And he also engineered a bunch of, kind of really big CanCon stuff, like some Arcade Fire and whatever else. He did the Weather Station's new record that I also really like. So he's not at all country, but he certainly is a very, very understanding musician. And we sort of have a very cool, mix and complementary styles that I think will be really neat.
It's cool. It's like you seem like very deliberate in your selections, and like you kind of know what you want it to sound like, and you know who you need to help you out with that. And it's cool that it's a different studio and a different producer than the last one as well.
Yeah, and I think I'd kind of like to do that throughout my career as much as I can. I think I think for me personally, it's exciting to explore different sounds and different people and try different things, and maybe I'll find something that I want to stick with, and that'll be that. But until then, I think it's fun to kind of surf around a bit.
Yeah, it's cool to move around and to involve different people. I think you're going to get different things. Like, I've had this conversation with my crew an awful lot, and Grant has been like, yeah, we'll make one more and then you need to move on, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly it, So,
and good for him for understanding that.
Oh, definitely. When did you write these tunes that are coming on this next record?
Most of them I've written within the last kind of year. I've had the 3 years since the last one came out, but I was touring so much that I just wasn't in a space to be sort of creating. I didn't know what I wanted to say. And then, the pandemic hit, and I had kind of one or two songs that I was playing live that were pretty new, but yeah, most of the tunes are pandemic born.
I mean, I guess it's like a positive thing of, being at home for a little while longer, to hammer these things out. Like, where were you guys? You guys toured in the States a little bit too, right?
Yeah, we did the Philly Folk Fest and did like a show in Vermont and in New York there in 2019.
And you were doing like a fair amount here in Canada?
Yeah, hadn't done a whole lot in the East, but done Toronto a couple times, done Hamilton a couple times, and Western Canada lots and lots.
Any places outside of Calgary and Edmonton, say, that you particularly enjoy or that you feel like you've done, really strong showings in?
Oh, Winnipeg's up there. I love that place.
They like you here.
And I love it. That Times Change Bar is just like one of my favorites. Aside from that, I love Saskatchewan.
Me too.
Fuck. I love it there. Everybody's so nice. And that Artesian Theater in Regina.
It's a nice one. Yeah.
Love.
Digging back into your catalog, which of your songs are you particularly proud of? And is there any that you especially enjoy performing live?
I still love playing Driving in the Dark. That was my first song I wrote with other people. And, one of them is a Winnipegger. And I wrote another song with him for this next record. And I also like that song. So I love looking back on that tune because I wrote it out in Manitoba at a retreat. And yeah, it's just got great memories for me. And I still think it's a really well put together and articulated tune.
You and, was that Grant Davidson?
Yeah, I love that guy.
He's fantastic at what he does. And yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I still really like playing Rose Colored Frames because that one did okay for me. And it's a nice little tune. Yeah, I still dig into a couple tunes from Motorhome. Like I said, I play Trouble Is sometimes. I still play Motorhome live with my band, but we've rearranged it into a bit of an acid trip tune now, so that's fun.
I like that one. That's one of my favorite ones of yours.
Yeah, I like that tune too. Thanks, bud.
Do you still do the Big Big Love cover ever? That's a nice one too.
Yeah, I whip that one out usually Stampede season. Or the odd, whatever show we're playing 2 sets. That's always a good one for a 2-setter because it's super fun. And who doesn't like Katie Lang?
Exactly. So do you have sort of the same, will you be having the same guys you had as before, or have people kind of moved on?
I switched up the live thing a little bit. The same bass player, Curtis. He's from Toulon, Manitoba, so he's good. And then Ryan Funk, who plays with Dell. And I've got kind of rotating keys player, but a guy, Matt Krause, who's an Edmonton boy, was in that band Altameda for a long time. And a drummer, new guy named Luke, who's a young kid and just graduated that Grant McEwen program here in Edmonton. And he's awesome.
Awesome and eager.
Yeah, I love playing people kind of my own age and a bit younger because they want to do it.
Are you typically writing solo then? I know you said you wrote one with Grant or wrote a couple with Grant Davidson. Is the co-writing thing something you do much?
I do it the odd time, and I mean to do it more, and I try to, but I have a lot of anxiety around it still after doing it a few times, and I don't always love it. Just, it's got to be I've got to be in exactly the right mood. But most of my shit I write on my own still. Skinny
is the only person that I can comfortably write with.
Really, hey?
Yeah, we've written a few together, like where he would be on the road with me, and I've noticed this a lot with guys that have children at home. It's like they need to like justify their being away, or they need to remain occupied during the day. So he's always quick to be like, let's go. What do you got? I got, show me what you got. I got this. Like, let's do it. We got to finish one. We got it. And it's like, okay, and I really like that. But other than him, yeah, for me, it's the same thing. And I understand what you mean. I think, especially when you're hard on yourself.
Yeah. And I think there's also, well, like in the modern country world, that's kind of all it is. And as much as I sort of see the value sometimes in doing that, I also I kind of think at times it can strip away the person, because when you write a song, it's very personal, but the cool thing about it is that a whole bunch of people also interpret it as being personal to them. And I think when you kind of oversimplify and generalize by writing in a group or trying to make it like a relatable thing, it just kind of loses some of that for me.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah. I know you're like, and I see that you're very supportive of fellow artists and of your pals and stuff, but who are some current artists or bands that you like really especially enjoy listening to?
Oh, well, right now, non-local, but, I'm listening to that live War on Drugs record like once a day. It's getting me through. It feels like I'm at a show. I'm really digging on some Manitoba peeps, though. That buddy Chris Ulrich just put out a Pacific Central album I really like. That's got some cool sounds on it. Who else? I love Micah Ehrenberg, all he's doing out there too. I should know more, but I don't. Up in Edmonton, there's obviously lots going on, but I like Lucas Chason's up here. Braden Gates is also amazing and awesome. Shayla, I'm always listening to Shayla. Her new stuff is amazing. Yeah,
have you heard her new record that's not out yet?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I think it could be her best.
Fucking bomb.
Yeah.
The sounds are so good.
So if you do get the chance to record here in the next couple of weeks, is there a target date for release, or are you just going to kind of see how things play out?
Yeah, well, I think the plan is to get a single out in like August or July.
Oh, wow, cool.
If we can get it done, we want to get it going because, it's been long enough and let's fucking go here.
And you're signed up, you're with the Birthday Cake crew here in Winnipeg. What's the story there?
No, I'm not on their label, but Rebecca Simcoe, who works with them, is my current management. So I do work with them, but not in a label capacity.
Ah, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was the case.
No. We're I'll do the old shopperoonie. See if anyone gives a fuck, and if they don't, well, fuck them.
That's the official industry term for when you're going to go shop your new work around. We're going to go out and give it the old shopperoonie.
The old shopperoo.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys do.
Thanks, bud. I'll send you some roughs when it's all done.
That would be really great. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
Well, I like you, Sean Burns. I'll talk to you whenever you want.
I hope it goes well. I really do. And it's really good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, bud. Take care, okay?
You too, Bucks. Have a good one, bud.
Okay, bye, Sean.
Bye. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed my chat with Marielle Buckley. I got to thank Bucks once again for taking the time to talk with me. Listen to Marielle's tunes wherever you stream music for a nominal monthly fee, or check him out at mariellebuckley.com. Follow along with the Northern Report Spotify playlist to hear music from the folks that I've covered in the Honky-Tonk Times column, as well as here on the podcast. Remember to subscribe, like, follow, and share the Northern Report. Our logo was created by Boots Graham of Boots and the Hoots, Central Alberta's finest honky-tonkers. Music on the show today courtesy of Sean Burns and Lost Country, The Divorcees, and Skinny Dick. From local legends to regional stars to the cream of the Canadian crop, you'll find it all here on the Northern Report. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll chat later.
Hey,
What do you got for me?
never miss a good chance to shut up.